square mile of Nevada County has a zone. And having a zone that you know for your neighborhood is going to help you save time to be able to evacuate and keep you and your family safe.
Ready Nevada County is an education campaign designed to help the public have successful outcomes during emergency events. We really focus on a whole host of disasters or emergency events. We want to have a broad spectrum. We want to be prepared for anything, but really we focus a lot on wildfire because we know that's one of the most likely events to happen in Nevada County.
Ready, Set, Go is really built around the wildfire premise to prepare residents to be ready before an event, to move into the set posture when there's a red flag or a fire is near you, and then to go when it's time to go.
Essentially, in its simplest form, it's a three-tiered community emergency preparedness plan.
I have lived in this house, which we built, my husband and I, 26 years ago now, actually. We selected the hardy plank, the concrete siding, and also the metal roof. Then when we moved up here and heard about the 49er fire, that's when we started to say, wow, this really is even more important than we first realized.
So the 49er fire is one of the most historic fires in Nevada County's history. They figured it changed the laws of the state of California that said this is how you have to protect your home. That came out of Nevada County.
Steve Eubanks came from the Fire Safe Council, and the main thing we needed to pay attention to was the ladder fuels. Planting has been removed from the edges of the house so that it does not touch the house. It was an incredible service from the Fire Safe Council to come out and spend a couple of hours going through this property.
So the ready phase is when there's no immediate threat to you and your family. This is the time when you should be doing education and planning, whether that be training, educating yourself, or accumulating equipment, hardening your home, creating defensible space.
Defensible space is really all about creating a buffer zone between your house and flammable vegetation. We really focus on defensible space around the home, that first 100 feet, but also around the roadway too. Another aspect of the ready phase is hardening the home, and really what that means is making your home more resilient to wildfire.
That's going to be putting the fine-grained mesh around the vents of your home so that embers won't get under your house or into the eaves of your house. That's going to be using non-combustible materials on your deck and around your home, so when an ember storm comes through, it's not going to ignite your home itself.
I currently live here in Grass Valley with my parents. All of us have sleep apnea, so we all have CPAP machines that require power in order to run.
I also use a nebulizer, and that's used to disperse medication that I need to get myself breathing again. When we have safety shutoffs, we have to hook up our equipment to batteries that have inverters.
We have a generator that powers some of the things around the house, but then I obtained a pretty substantial battery from Freed, and it was so easy to go through the process to obtain a battery that I would recommend it to anyone who might have medical needs that require power, or really anything. I would highly recommend contacting Freed.
So whether it's a snowstorm or a public safety power shutoff, we really want folks to be thinking about, okay, what are the things I'll need on hand to weather the storm? Do I need to have candles? Do I need to have battery-powered radio? Do I need to have flashlights? So what are the things that you'll need to shelter in place or address the disaster at hand?
So a go bag could be anything. It could be a backpack, it could be a suitcase. It's gonna be something that you put together to sustain yourself, your family, your pets if needed. That's gonna have food, water, medication, clothing, toiletries to get you by for 72 hours. You need to think of your go bag as the only resource you may have. Stores may be closed, the power may be out, so you may have to literally live out of this thing for a 3-day period as an evacuee.
If you are someone with a disability, maybe you have a chronic health condition. For me, I have type 1 diabetes, I have an insulin pump, right? And so that's a critical piece that I need to plan for if I'm gonna ever evacuate or be away from my house, frankly, for any amount of time, right? What we find often is that if people don't evacuate with their CPAP machine, with their oxygen concentrator, with their wheelchair, walker, then it can be difficult on the other end.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Calling our March 11th board meeting to order. And Kathy Cahill, would you mind leading us in the pledge? All right, thank you. Madam Clerk, are there any corrections or deletions to the agenda?
No, Chair Hall, there are not.
Okay, thank you. Just going to ask everyone to bear with us. I'm recovering from a cold, and we have other folks here with various maladies, so it's that that month of the year. So we're going to start with the consent calendar. These items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. We'll act upon them at one time without discussion. Does anyone want to pull anything off the consent calendar? No? Seeing none? I'll open public comment on the consent calendar. Any comments on this calendar? No? Madam Clerk, anybody on the phone?
One moment, Chair.
Okay,
We are screening one caller.
all right. Oh, these microphones feel like they're working really well. Is that good for everybody else too? Excellent. Nice.
Chair, we do have one caller for consent.
Okay, let's take it.
Thank you.
Hello?
Go ahead, caller.
Anyone there?
We can hear you, Matthew. Go ahead.
Hi. Hi, Chair of the Board. This is just related to general that you blow through these things so quickly that the public really doesn't know what's going on. Yes, they can dig through and find out what's going on in the county, but you're fully aware of how much time and energy I put into what's going on in the county. And it's amazing that it's becoming more and more difficult to participate in local government. It's being shut off by all different directions, and public dissent is being squashed in multiple ways with taxpayers' money used to be doing that. Specifically, over the weekend, I had a very troubling incident at the corner of Greenhorn Road and Brunswick Road, which this is where the chair of the board, Heidi Hall, drives by on a daily basis, if I'm not mistaken. And the illegal sales of supposed tamales on the corner. The amount of meth that I turned in to the sheriff's last night at 10 o'clock that was found there after the sellers left and the police decided not to respond in a very long, over 30 minutes before they would respond to a physical assault on the side of the road, me being assaulted. I guess that's why they didn't respond, because it was me. So there's a lot of hypocrisy. There's a lot of, just basic neglect going on by our elected officials and appointed officials. And people are dying. Over the weekend, we had pedestrian kills, motorcyclist kills. This is like going to be 4 or 5 people a weekend soon when the weather warms up. I suggest you guys do your jobs. Thank you.
Any other comment, Madam Clerk?
No additional callers, Chair.
Okay, we're going to close public comment on the consent calendar and move into general public comments. Oh, sorry, forgot the motion. I'm looking
Move to approve. Consent.
for Madam Clerk.
District 5,
Yes.
District 2, District 4,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 1.
Yes, thank you. Now we are moving into public comment, general public comment. Members of the public shall be allowed to address the Board of Supervisors on items not appearing on today's agenda. Speakers are encouraged but not required to give their name and district of residence. Please direct your comments to the board. You can speak only once during public comment, and you'll have 3 minutes, at which point the microphone will be turned off. And if you want to call in, you can call in at 530-270-3474 to comment over the phone. Okay, so we're going to open public comment. Anyone in the chambers?
Good morning, everybody. I'm back. Shirley Osgood, District 3. Thank you for your eye contact. I really appreciate it as an indication that you're listening. Thank you. First of all, I would like to return to ask for a ceasefire arms embargo resolution allowing for humanitarian aid to be entered into Gaza. Ethnic cleansing continues to happen. If you're listening to the news, you've heard it. Even though we are being showered with so many other concerning issues right now, and especially for the last 3 weeks. I don't want us to forget that there is still a genocide going on, and it's important for everybody to speak out. Everybody and everybody. And it would be really easy right now for you all to look at what Grass Valley adopted a couple of weeks ago and see if it works for you. It may need a couple of tweaks and it may work, and you can say yes to this. Secondly, I do want to mention that there is great concern in our country right now and locally about things that are happening with ICE and deportations that are starting to happen. And I'm grateful to know that our county is supporting us not supporting ICE with illegal deportations. And I don't want to minimize my concerns about Gaza, but that's just one thing that I do want to state right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley.
Good morning. My name's Don Fraser. I live in Nevada City. I've spoken a number of times here asking for a ceasefire resolution and an arms embargo against the state of Israel. And this morning I'd like to point out how the United States government is in violation of its own laws, the Lehigh Law. The Lehigh Law prohibits the U.S. government from using funds for assistance to units of foreign security forces where there is credible information implicating that unit in commission of gross violations of human rights. Of course, the unit I'm talking about is IDF. There are 2 statutory provisions. One applies to the State Department and one applies to the Department of Defense. This one is a permanent statute in Section 362 of Title 10 of the U.S. Code. It requires that the Department of Defense Department of Defense appropriated funds may not be used for any training, equipment, or other assistance for foreign security forces if gross violations of human rights have been committed. 15 months of bombing of civilians, resulting in 50 to 100,000 deaths. Mass expulsion of civilian populations, destruction of water, sewage, and electrical infrastructure, denial of food, shelter, and medical supplies. I believe that all qualifies as gross violations of human rights. I respectfully ask that the Board of Supervisors write a resolution condemning these acts and encouraging our representatives in Congress to follow the law and deny funds to the State of Israel and quit sending arms that are being used to kill, maim, starve, ethnic cleanse the people of Palestine. Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Hi, I'm Joyce Craddock from your district, Heidi. So I don't know if this is the right platform. Go closer.
Oh, put your microphone down a little bit if you would. Thank you.
Sorry. So I don't know if this is the platform to ask this question, but it's regarding tiny homes on wheels.
We don't respond to public comment, but you can make your comment and we can have staff follow up with you to answer if you like.
So I know you guys passed a bunch of new resolutions or codes. I want to know if they apply to tiny homes that people don't live in all the time, and if they apply to in the sphere of influence on non-perkable land that would run into Little Deer Creek without any utilities. Because I have a neighbor that's doing this off of my property also. I wanted to address the burn permit issue, because I've been told that you can burn without any running water if you have a burn permit, and we're in a redwood forest. So I have concern. We have no, fire insurance, and we have a drought. So I don't know how to go about and figure all that out. I've called the zoning people, and they have issued items for the man to do, but he doesn't, because the tiny homes keep coming and going, like a commercial enterprise. So if someone could just direct me in the right direction, that'd be great.
Sure, thank you. And Tricia, I think we'll follow up with you. Okay,
All right,
thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone on the phone?
Chair Hall, we do have one caller.
Okay, let's take it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Am I on?
Go ahead.
Hello? Okay, there was 2 beeps, so I wasn't sure. Different. Matthew Coulter, Nevada County. Yes, I'd like to expand on what I talked about a few minutes ago. If you would go to my Concerned Citizen Facebook page, you could see the videos from the event that happened over the weekend with the tamale vendors on the corner of Greenhorn Road and Brunswick Road. And the fact that we've got illegal child trafficking going on in town. We've got blatant illegal drug sales going on in town. The sheriffs were at my house at 10 o'clock last night so I could turn in large amounts of meth that I found. And the officer's comment was, that's a massive amount of meth. So this is the kind of shit that's being found along our roadsides, our parks. It's just crazy to think that when I called for a call for service, that at the same time, 8 NCSO were all out at Cars and Coffee getting a photo op. So that's why it took so long for them to get there. And by the time they got there, the perpetrators had left. And how many showed up for me? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 officers. And I'm the reporting party. So this is just this ongoing drumbeat of do as we say, not as we do by our elected and appointed officials. that are being so highly overpaid. I don't include the police or sheriff in that amount unless it's the management. As far as being overpaid, Brown Act violations going on currently at the Grass Valley Development Review Committee meeting. There's just a lot of really basic structural problems that are going on in our county that aren't being addressed, but art and different things that our pet projects seem to be really exciting and focused on. This morning I posted, I think, 3 fatalities since 7 a.m. And our community is really hurting in a lot of different ways. And I just don't see our elected and appointed officials engaging with the community to solve these problems. On the contrary, when the community wants to engage, they are shunted and put aside and literally criminalized. So this is a problem we have going on, and I'll be over to do a formal complaint about what happened over the weekend with the sheriff's department. But at the same time, I'm looking for corrections. I'm not looking just to make complaints. I do this because I want things to get better, not worse. And it seems like things are getting way worse.
Thank you for your comment.
Good morning. My name is Jeffrey Gottesman. I'm here representing Jewish Voice for Peace and the Peace and Justice Center of Nevada County. And I'm here because we have a serious problem. The ceasefire in Gaza has not held, and our tax dollars are now being used to supply the weapons that are blockading the Gaza Strip from humanitarian aid. That's a violation of U.S. law. The Leahy law says no weapons and no military aid to any country that is committing human rights violations, and starving a civilian population of 2 million people is a human rights violation. And it's also a violation of international law. And right now, the leaders of Israel are being held with charges for potential genocide. So I'm asking that the Board of Supervisors pass a resolution that would advise our elected officials at the federal and state level not to support this genocide effort in Israel and the Gaza Strip. We don't want to see Trump Gaza with ethnic cleansing of 2 million people. We don't want to see hundreds of thousands of people starve to death, mostly women and children. And you can make a difference for this. The Grass Valley City Council just took an extremely courageous position, and they know that the most powerful lobby in the United States is going to be gunning for them after they came out with an unequivocal moral position on this issue. And I'm inviting you to do the same, to stand up for what's right, even though it will cause you some political flack. We've been asking for this for a long time. All we're asking you to do is pass a resolution that asks that our federal and state governments follow the law.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Madam Clerk, do we have any other callers?
No additional callers, Chair.
All right. Anyone else in the chambers? All right. Close public comment. Thank you all for showing up this morning. And we are going to go to Department Head Matters. Item number 14, Public Health Director Kathy Cahill. This will be a resolution approving the agreement between the County of Nevada and Partnership Health Plan of California for the delivery of enhanced care management services in Nevada County, which will automatically renew at 1-year intervals until either party terminates the agreement. Kathy, go ahead.
Good morning, Supervisor Hall and Board. Glad to be here this morning. I'm the Public Health Director, Kathy Cahill for Nevada County, and my colleague, Shar.
Hi, thanks for having us here. I'm Shar Weiss-Wenzel, under the Director of Public Health Nursing, and I too am still trying to recover from having a pretty bad illness in January. So thanks for having us.
So today we're going to give you basically three things. One is we want to share with you what the actual MOU that we're developing with Partnership is about. Partnership is our managed care plan that we have here in Nevada County. And secondly, we want to explain the California Children's Services Program, which has been around for many, many years in Nevada County and is changing with all of the changes around CalAIM and managed care. And then lastly, we want to just reemphasize the importance of the enhanced care management aspect of the MOU because it gives the county here an opportunity to continue to serve many of the children and their families that we've been serving over the last probably 40 years. We couldn't remember or find out exactly when CCS started here in Nevada County, but it's been many years. The program's over 100 years in the U.S. So I will start. First slide. The MOU that we are proposing is really an MOU with our managed care plan here in Nevada County Partnership. And we want to establish it for purposes of really formalizing Nevada County as an enhanced care case manager. That means that we would be continuing to support some of our CCS families, which Shar can explain in a minute, and that we will then become a provider of services of which then we will get reimbursed from Partnership through a mechanism of billing and systems. We already have a similar system in Nevada County in HHSA with our behavioral health colleagues who also are enhanced care management provider. The goal is really to improve care coordination of our children and their families, and the outcomes would really improve overall family life and the individual children who are served through CCS. So next, I'm going to have Shar explain the actual California Children's Services Program.
Yeah, so this is going to be a kind of a higher level overview of the California Children's Services. And like Kathy said, this is a program that was instituted in 1927. And it originally was called the Crippled Children's Services. It was renamed in 1978. So CCS, or California Children's Services, it's a state program, and it provides care coordination and services for children and youth with serious chronic medical conditions. Some of those conditions would be congenital heart disease, cystic fibrosis, other medical complex diseases like diabetes, cancer, and many more. Excuse me. The program is for children under the age of 21, and there are some eligibility requirements that they would need to meet, the families need to meet, and that would be the medical eligibility, financial and residential requirements. So CCS has ensured that these kiddos receive these specialized services, and like Kathy said, for decades in Nevada County. Very dedicated group of staff have been working with these kids for many years. We have 427 children enrolled in CCS. About 390 are medical managed care kids. And those are the ones that we're talking about more today. So those are the children that would fall under this enhanced care management program. Excuse me. Along with the CCS kids, there's another component of the program, and that's called our medical therapy unit. Our medical therapy unit, this was established in the state of California in 1945, and it delivers specialized physical therapy, occupational therapy, and also a medical therapy conference to kids. And these units are located on school grounds. So it has enabled them to work with the schools for these special kids and also have a place for them so that they could even just walk back to school and be taken out of school for these services. The medical therapy unit is to treat those things like spinal bifida, traumatic brain injury, burns, and muscular dystrophy, just to name a few. And in the medical therapy conference is where they bring together all the special disciplines. So the client, of course, and their caregivers, and the physical therapist and occupational therapist, and also the physician that works with these kids. So that's a little history on CCS.
So why is all this changing, and why is there a need for a managed care plan MOU? So beginning in January of this year, 2025, the Department of Health Services changed the model of traditional CCS, which we in public health and across the state provided services for, to what we're calling a whole child model. So the whole child model is really an approach which is helping to put in one place with doctors, clinicians, and others the care of these children on an ongoing basis. The goal is to streamline care and create a more coordinated system for the families, so a basic medical home model. So we're excited about that. I think it's going to be helpful for the children and the families that we serve. But the MOU with partnership is really to allow us, to, as I said earlier, become a provider of enhanced care management, to really begin to then provide the services that are the wraparound kinds of services that families need. Transportation, referral to specialty care occasionally, if there's food insecurity or housing issues or other needs, social determinant kinds of needs that the families want, that we will be able to link them to those services. Sorry. Thank you. So the whole child model is now providing the county and us in public health the opportunity, as I said, to become a provider of those services and then receive a reimbursement from partnership for those services. What is actually enhanced case management? Shar, back to you.
So with the transition to whole child model, our county had transitioned from where we medically case managed the kiddos' conditions, and that transferred to partnership healthcare. However, with enhanced care management, we're still able to work with the families and to provide that intensive non-medical case management for those families in high needs. Excuse me. Our CCS crew has established these great relationships with these families. And so this is a model that we can use for them to be able to continually assist with all the outreach and engagement and health promotion, transitional care, all those social determinants of health that come along with these critical conditions that these kids have. And because of the MOU and the ECM model, we're able to establish a sustainable mechanism so that we can bill Medi-Cal for these tasks and duties and relationships and all this good stuff, and get paid amount to work with these families. So what some of the things that they would do is, working with families to get them their diabetic supplies, or maybe they were food insecure. And so they could refer them to our services that we have in our county, which we have quite a few. And also perhaps, if they had an orthotics that they needed to be addressed and provided, they would help the families navigate getting those things that they need.
So we're asking today to support the MOU with partnership so that we can continue, as Shar said, to really benefit our families and continuing to make linkages to services, which they've done a lot of over the last many, many years, and really to build on that experience. And hopefully, I think it'll be an opportunity for us to enhance even more our overall services for these particular children that we've been serving for many years. So thank you, Chairman Hall, for asking us to be here today, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Great, thank you, Kathy and Shar. Thanks for hanging in there, Shar. Any questions from my colleagues? Lisa? Sue, any questions or comments?
No questions. Thanks for the presentation, though. That was really eye-opening. I mean, I know we do a lot, but the transition part is going to be pretty interesting to see how that flows. Lots of changes with partnership and all these new things coming. So kudos to you for managing that, for one thing. And yeah, this was very interesting. I know my daughter does special education, and I know there's lots of need, and those kiddos can engage and be in part of our community. That's so important. So what you guys do is really, really important. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And I welcome any of you anytime to visit our MTU here in Grass Valley, which is, as Shar said, really a great place to see the work of the kids, what they're getting, their families are getting, and the care that comes from all the different types of providers, from, like she said, physical therapists to physicians that are treating complicated cases. So.
Hardy?
Oh, yeah, thank you. Kathy, what's the MCU stand for?
I'm sorry, what?
What was the last that you made?
The managed care plan. I'm sorry, the MTU, Medical Therapy Unit, that is housed in, Shar, you want to tell them?
Is it the McAteer Center?
Yeah, it's here, and it's a therapy center that kids who are in CCS come to actually get care from technical providers that come in for certain things, like fitting a new brace or fitting a wheelchair or something of that nature, and other things. And it's closely related to the school, so we actually are housed in the school district's premises, and it's a great opportunity for those children who are in school to be able to come and do that in their families. So it's a service that's offered across the state in all the counties, and we will continue to be doing that, even with the changes in the managed care plan.
Got it. And there's a physical location for that. Okay, great. Early on, you were mentioning the Medi-Cal recipient ratio of, like, there's 300 some odd Medi-Cal recipients and then 400 overall program participants. Can you just describe the difference between, I mean, I know what the difference is, but, like, are we trying to benefit or trying to widen the program to benefit people outside of Medi-Cal as well? And if so, how do we pay for that?
So the other children that are in this program, they are either straight fee-for-service Medi-Cal, which I believe they're trying to transition a lot of those kids into managed care. I think that is the goal. And then there's straight CCS, which are those kiddos that are in families that may not meet Medi-Cal eligibility, but do meet other financial eligibility, whereas their medical bills far exceed the income that they have.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and so we will continue to medically case manage those kids, just as we've done before. So that hasn't changed.
Yeah, great. I understand. And then maybe Kathy could answer this, because I'm sorry about asking questions with your voice, but one of the things is there anything, so kids at risk with the whole child model that you described, is there anything that works with the parents or the parents' lifestyle or the negative health outcomes related to the parents' behavior?
So a lot of what the ECM, the Enhanced Care Management, will do is also provide services to the parents and linkages for the parents. So as Char said, whether it's, rent, food, other health care needs the child may have that are above and beyond what ECM or CCS would support, therapies, those kinds of things. So, and I think a lot of it is really we have a great team who is here today. who are the people who talk to them every day, the parents, and they're really big support, social support for the parents on how to navigate the systems. And it's complicated at best, but so this is really a service, I think, that really helps bolster the parents in their taking care of their kids.
Thank you. And then just one quick statement, and then I'll be quiet, but partnership in 2024, Ryan I know is totally engaged with partnership, but we spend so much time with Partnership Health at our county that whatever you're doing it right, because they're integrated in every level of our healthcare provision kind of for the county. So I know there's a lot of emphasis on that relationship, and I totally support whatever we do to make that work for us. And we've had different things that have come up last year related to local healthcare and Partnership Health, but at this point, I just wanted to say that definitely support working on that relationship and staying tight with them.
Thank you. We're definitely working on continuing the relationship, and I think we really have, in public health anyway, a really robust relationship. And I'll just say Jill Blake, whose job I took over, who was former public health, is one of our best colleagues right now at Partnership. So the interlink between public health and in the county and Partnership is really, I think, going well. It's a process of learning for all of us. So thanks for that.
Thanks, Hardy. Rob. Okay. I just have one question, and you may not be able to answer this, but this is a Medi-Cal program, and you said it's a state program. Are you aware of any federal funds are going into this program?
I don't know. I have to get back to you. I believe it's been a state program for many, many years, as we said earlier. It's out of DHCS, Department of Health Care System.
Okay, sounds like Ryan might be able to answer.
Chair Hall, members of the board, Enhanced Care Management, which is the program that they're entering into an MOU for, is a Medi-Cal benefit under the CalAIM reforms. So that, as you'll recall, that's a reform to Medi-Cal that encompasses a broader scope for healthcare and allows for things like case management to be billed to Medi-Cal. That is federally funded. It's a match of federal and state funds. Medicaid is. So it's depending on the situation of the family. It could be 50% state versus federal, or up to 90% federal. So absolutely, it's part of the broader Medicaid funding, and it's an optional benefit that California has opted into. So definitely keeping our eyes on the federal situation in terms of how that plays out, and depending on the situation, it could be a program that's at risk in the future.
Thank you for that. So yeah, please keep us informed as we see what's happening nationally, how that might impact us here in the county. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's open it for public comment. Any public comment in the chambers on this? Any callers?
No callers, Chair.
Okay, we'll close public comment, bring it back to the board. Any final comments? Nope.
No comments, but I would make a motion to approve the resolution.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
District 5?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 1?
Yes. Thank you so much, Kathy and Char. Appreciate you. Okay, what happened to my script? Okay, I think we're coming to, does anybody need a break? No? Okay. Over there, teen? Anybody? Okay. All right, we have, I am missing an item on my, give me just 1 minute, please. Yeah, sorry, there it is. Not missing it. Thanks. Okay, welcome, Alex Keeble-Toll. This is an item, Office of Emergency Services. Resolution approving the MOU between the County of Nevada and the City of Grass Valley for reimbursement of tablet command software in an amount not to exceed $54,000. Okay, take it away, Alex. Thank you.
All right. Good morning, Chair Hall, members of the board, staff, and public. I'm Alex Keeble-Toll, your Interim Director of Emergency Services, and I'm joined this morning by Chief Mark Bouchon of Grass Valley Fire Department. As you know, the Office of Emergency Services works to address our work through 4 pillars: planning and preparedness, mitigation, response, and recovery. Over the last several years, I think the vast majority of things we've brought before you have been really in that mitigation bucket, front-loading our recovery process. So it's very exciting today to bring you something that specifically addresses our increased enhancement of response, specifically Tablet Command, which is incident response and management software. Through your board's leadership and as a result of collaborative conversations with agencies, including Chief Bouchon of Grass Valley Fire Department here today and Chief Jason Robital of Nevada County Consolidated, an opportunity was identified to strengthen emergency response capabilities for all fire agencies within Nevada County, including Truckee and emergency medical service providers as well. In order to be effective, our first responders require a software platform that centralizes incident information with mapping, routing, resource identification such as vehicles and hydrants, and other fire-related informational needs. Incident View, the current platform, phases out this month, and Tablet Command has been identified as the optimal replacement. Among other things, Tablet Command will address areas for improvement noted in the recent Municipal Service Review, namely by supporting improved response times. So logistically speaking, County of Nevada is committing to fiscal assistance for the startup costs of Tablet Command, which total $54,000. This support is being brought forward as an MOU with the City of Grass Valley, who will make the upfront purchase so that this can happen timely as Incident View times out. Agencies will be responsible for the licenses and devices that are required for their teams to participate in this, and there is an annual cost associated with it of $17,000. In terms of the agencies being responsible, we are looking into whether Homeland Security grant program funds can be used to support that. And then we're also looking into solutions for that annual cost. So the benefits of Tablet Command are substantial. First and foremost, they include partnership. So this platform will provide integrated access for law, fire, first responders, OES on both sides of the summit. It will provide global situational awareness, so everyone will have awareness of incidents, even if they're not actively involved. This will create this shared operating picture, so everyone will be able to see what resources are available and what resources are closest to incidents. And this includes automatic vehicle locators, which Mark will talk a little bit more about. It includes CAD integration, so this software is integrated with the computer-aided dispatch or CAD system, which is operated by CAL FIRE's Grass Valley Emergency Command Center. And really taken all together, these will support improved response times and thus improved outcomes for our community. Finally, this software will allow our local folks to be more effective if they're called to out-of-area incidents because they will be able to use Tablet Command to tie in and have that same situational global awareness elsewhere. So at this time, I'm going to hand this presentation over to Mark, Chief Bouchon, so that he can show you a couple of slides and talk a bit more in detail about what this platform looks like.
Good morning. Thank you, Alex. The screen there is a representation of what we would see from Tablet Command active at an incident. And keep in mind, this here is a picture. So what we would be looking at is real time. So some of those fire engines that you see up there that we're going to describe here in a minute, they'd actually be moving around so that we can track them. That's through what's called AVL, or automatically vehicle location. And I'll talk a little bit about that specific to this picture in the next one, but also on how that improves response in general in the average day-to-day business. So what we see here is we see a representation of what the incident commander or those responding agencies would see on their device or their iPad. But this program's iPad-based. Within the fire engine. So specifically what you're looking at is you're looking at address there in the upper left-hand side, the TAC channels that would be associated with the incident, the type of incident that it is. This happens to be a snapshot of a vegetation fire. You can see it's kind of in the middle of the screen in the upper part, the responding engines, the engines that are on scene in red, and then the incident number and the call received time and date. But the true meat and potatoes of this is kind of that center of that picture, right? It's showing you where the incident is occurring, access points around that, roadways. You have a global view of the top of the incident down. We can see what's out in front of the incident and structures, what type of vegetation's out in front of us. And we get to see our resources, where those resources are coming from, where they're going, and how they're approaching our incident. And that becomes key for the incident commander and for those responding on the incident, just so we have the situational awareness of where we're all at. You know, there's a safety aspect of this that we don't often talk about, but when you have you know, several emergency response vehicles, whether it be EMS or fire, responding in a structure fire or vegetation fire type scenario, you know, you're talking anywhere between maybe 5 to 7 to 10 resources converging in a very small area. So what AVL does is it allows us to see each other as we move throughout the city and we start converging that area. And one of those safety points that's not often talked about is just intersections, right? So as you can imagine, coming through the cities, you know, you're converging all those resources into a very small specific area, so you have to be very careful about who's going where and when. So just kind of a little offshoot, but that is another advantage of it. So this is representative more of a structure fire type scenario here. This is the viewpoint, or one of the viewpoints we could have. Some of the same information from that other incident would be displayed up here, but things that are to note here. Tablet Command has an overlay, as our current system does, of all hydrants. So we know where all the fire hydrants are. It has an overlay for FDC or fire department connections, Knox box locations. And that becomes important it's so that we know where we need to go immediately to get access to the building. We know where our water supply is. And in particular with Tablet Command, that's really good for the responders and the incident commanders is if you look at the main building and look up from it, kind of the box above the main building there, it says, it's hard to read, but it says floor plans. We can embed floor plans and pre-plans into buildings. So all we have to do is hit a button and it'll pop up the pre-plans that we have done or a floor plan. And that becomes obviously very beneficial to the responders. So just in general, very powerful program moving forward, certainly bringing us into a realm that we never have been into before. And really what we're talking about here is just kind of the response side of this program. There's a whole command and control side of this program that we're not even really touching right now, that we'd be happy to come back and show you once we have it. But really kind of concentrating on just getting us there, getting us the information, getting us there safe, have situational awareness, firefighter accountability, and doing the best that we can for public safety.
All right, thanks, Chief. So bringing it back to the recommendation, we recommend that the board approve the MOU between the County of Nevada and the City of Grass Valley for reimbursement of Tablet Command software in an amount not to exceed $54,000. We are proposing that Title III funds are used to cover the $54,000 as delineated in item SR 250284, which was approved by your board on consent this morning. And at this time, we'll open it up to questions. Thank you.
Thank you. That's very impressive. I'm just going to ask a couple clarification questions and turn it over. Can we go back to the first map where they're looking over more rural area, it looked like? That one. Yeah. Just out of curiosity, those little red tabs, looks like they're on, for the most part, on road crossings, but there's one that looks like it's right over a home. Can you just explain what those are?
The circle? Is that what you're...
No, the red tabs. So E352, E381, E359 is over a home.
Yeah, those are all fire apparatus. So
they are.
Yeah. And that's part of AVL. So it would actually track that fire apparatus as it moves. So as it comes down the roadway, goes into the driveway, backs into the person's residence, it's tracking that the whole time.
Wow.
That's one of the advantages of this program is it has a true AVL denominator with it, so we can see everything. We see everybody. There's a crossover between the two programs, which CAL FIRE is currently running a program called Radio Bulbul. It is more of a dedicated AVL or automatic vehicle location, and MDT, or the fire service. We got acronyms for everything. MDT is mobile data terminal. So there is some crossover there, so they can see us and we can see them. within the two systems.
Oh, great.
They just don't have on that system the command and control side that this does.
I see. Okay. That sort of leads to my second question, which is, this is an MOU with Grass Valley, but it did sound like you were saying this brings everyone together. So are there other agencies already using this, and this is just bringing us up to speed so that we're all on the same page?
So this will be available to all of the fire agencies and emergency medical service providers in Nevada County. City of Grass Valley has just come forward with the willingness to pay for the upfront costs, and they're more coming in and reimbursing it. And then, as mentioned, each of the individual entities will be responsible for the actual tablets and then that $900 software per person. And we are looking, as mentioned, to see whether we can have Homeland Security Grant Program funds cover that cost. But to reiterate, this is for all of our folks countywide, including in Truckee Fire Protection District. It's meant to put everyone on the same platform with situational awareness of one another.
That's fantastic. That wasn't clear, and that's very nice of Grass Valley to step up and offer to front the money. Thank you. So I'm going to turn it over, Lisa.
Thank you. Thanks for being here, and I appreciate the presentation. I had the opportunity to actually meet with Chief Boutron. He previewed this for me a month or so ago when we were talking about how to bring this to the Board of Supervisors, so I really appreciate how we got here today. I think it's pretty common knowledge in the community. The county is not in the fire business. Fire districts are all separate entities with their own boards of directors and their own funding sources. But I think that as the county, we do have a responsibility to help when we can. And I think one of the things with this is it includes everybody. I mean, we all represent different fire districts that are in our districts. I have 4 fire districts in my supervisorial district. So I really feel strongly about if we have the ability to do something on a financial basis, that it does benefit all the fire districts in the community. I think that's a fairness issue with all of us that sit up here. So thanks for this. I was super impressed. I actually got a little bit more detailed of a presentation from Mark when we were looking at this, and it was amazing what it shows. And I think there's some discussion maybe with the sheriff's office to have access as well, which is really important, especially when you're on a scene where you need some backup from law enforcement for traffic control or whatever issues come up. So I appreciate you guys being here today, and I look forward to seeing this be put in action.
Sue?
No questions. I hope we can find that other funding because all the fire departments are tight, and so that's going to be a big expense to add into this. So I do hope we continue to do that. So thanks, Alex.
That's a good point. Yeah. Hardy?
Yeah, thanks. It's cool technology. It reminds me of what air traffic control technology and aircraft tracking movement areas and stuff. Yeah, it's really cool. I'm looking forward to it. Just one quick question. There's the consolidated contingency plans that like different entities submit to the county so that the county and other fire agencies know what's inside all these big buildings like compressed gas and all that stuff. And you mentioned the mapping of the internal like floor plan detail. Because I know lots of agencies have to submit those very complex plans to you, is there some movement afoot to try and integrate or make a data source that connects all these things?
It's my understanding you could do that with those plans, and they have to be in the right file shape. I don't know what that means because I'm not an IT guy, but they can import them into that program, and then they would be available for anybody on the platform.
Cool. Yeah. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, let's open it up for public comment. Anyone in the chambers? Madam Clerk, anyone on the phone?
No callers, Chair.
Okay, we'll just take 2 seconds in case they are trying to call in. Keep checking for me.
No callers.
Okay. All right, we'll close public comment and bring it back to the board. Thank you for such an excellent presentation, and it looks very exciting, and I'm looking for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Madam Clerk?
District 5.
Yes.
District 2.
Yes.
District 4.
Yes.
District 3.
Yes.
District 1.
Yes, great. Thanks, Chief. And Alex, thank you very much for coming in. I'm gonna call for a 5-minute break, and we'll come back for our last public item. Okay, we are back, and we're going to move into a presentation on federal legislative update and recent advocacy efforts, and Chief of Staff Jeff Thorsby.
Thank you so much, Chair Hall, members of the board. Good morning. I'm Jeff Thorsby, your Chief of Staff, and I'm pleased to be here to provide.
Okay, I'm going to ask everyone to speak up a little bit. We're having we're struggling with the microphone, so.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. I will do so. Jeff Thorsby, your Chief of Staff. I'm pleased to be here with you today to provide you a federal legislative update. I'm pleased to be here joined with your Deputy CEO, Aaron Mettler. And also we have your Paragon Legislative Advocacy Team available for questions. You can't see them right now, but they're available virtually. And so excited to provide a legislative update on efforts in Washington by your board, and then also attending the National Association of Counties Legislative Annual Conference last week. Before providing a full update, I'd like to provide a brief orientation to you and to the public on members of the public on touch points of our advocacy program. As you're well aware, your board adopts its annual legislative platform each year that consists of a variety of positions providing direction to staff to advocate on the interest of the county, both at the federal and state level. This is done in a variety of ways, including working directly with our federal and state legislative delegates, working directly with the county's member associations to represent your interest. At the federal level, Nevada County is located in the California 3rd Congressional District, which is represented by Congressman Kevin Kiley. Of course, we are also represented by the 2 state senators. That's Senator Alex Padilla as well as Senator Adam Schiff. Nevada County also works directly with Paragon Government Relations, which is your federal legislative advocates in Washington, D.C. I'd like to give a shout out to them for their work, as well as also to your legislative staff. That includes Chris Sear and Mandy Stewart. In addition, the county is also a member of the National Association of Counties. This is an association that represents a large part of almost all counties in the United States. We are also represented by the California State Association of Counties, as well as the Rural County Representatives of California, who all do federal advocacy. Specifically, I would like to just give a quick shout out for members of the public to be aware that to Chair Hall, Supervisor Bullock, and Supervisor Hook for your leadership in all of these associations. Specifically at the federal level, Supervisor Hall sits on the Justice Public Safety Policy Steering Committee and the Homeland Security Policy Subcommittee that considers issues related to emergencies, FEMA, and insurance. Supervisor Hall also serves on NACO's Intergovernmental Disaster Reform Task Force, which I will talk about in a little bit in this presentation, and is also appointed by our state association to serve on the NACO Board of Directors. Supervisor Bullock also serves on the NACO Public Lands Policy Steering Committee, which considers policy associated with federal public lands, including U.S. Forest Service, BLM, open space recreation. Supervisor Bullock also sits on the County and Tribal Relations Policy Subcommittee as well. For today's presentation, just to give a quick overview, I'm going to provide a high-level overview of recent federal activities as they relate to county local government services, both at the executive and congressional branches. I'll also provide an overview of some of NACO's short-term priorities outlined at the legislative conference, and then also speak about some of the work our board and our county did regarding direct advocacy on Capitol Hill. So with that, I will go ahead and move forward. So first of all, I just want to, as it's widely reported, at the beginning of the new presidential term, President Trump issued a myriad of executive orders and also launched a new Department of Government Efficiency. Of particular and immediate importance, the administration issued executive orders that led the White House Office of Management and Budget to issue memorandum that directed federal heads of executive departments and agencies to undertake a comprehensive analysis of all federal financial assistance programs and to identify programs, projects, activities that may be impacted by any of the recent issued executive orders. This effectively halted and froze funding of approximately 2,600 federal funding accounts. While very broad, the administration walked back some of these guidelines and ultimately rescinded this memo. However, widespread access to federal funding was effectively halted and created confusion. And still remains unclear of what is and what is not frozen. In addition, lawsuits were also immediately filed, leading the courts to order temporary restraining orders and to halt for the freezing of funding. However, widespread impacts were felt across the nation, including federal agencies and federal grant recipients. The county immediately began reviewing county services and programs and contracts that could be impacted, with the majority of them being housed in the Health and Human Services Agency, as well as the Office of Emergency Services. We were also notified by the U.S. Forest Service that several fire mitigation projects housed in the Tahoe National Forest were also being held up for review of DEI language within their contracts and subcontracts. This was very concerning, as these projects were already funded and were in process of being awarded to ensure a start time before the spring or during the spring before weather conditions prevent implementation. The Tahoe National Forest raised the alarm of these contracts remaining in limbo for too long, that they would no longer be viable projects for the coming season, which is concerning regarding our fire mitigation project efforts. However, the impact was not only to the government agencies and contracts, but also received notice from private timber companies, including Robinson Timber Enterprises, that the National Forest Foundation, which is a nonprofit arm of the federal government responsible for issuing funds appropriated by Congress, has issued a full stop work order in February, thereby halting private timber work across the region. And this was for any work that was being funded by the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022 and the Infrastructure Investment of Jobs Act. In addition, the county held a stakeholder meeting also to learn more about various impacts that contractors and nonprofits were hearing or feeling or being concerned about. Simultaneously, the administration launched the Department of Government Efficiency, began the reduction of workforce and the elimination of staff actions across the federal agencies. This included releasing temporary and probationary employees and also included applicable buyout operations for folks to leave employment. Some of the impacts that we heard directly and immediately were from the U.S. Forest Service, who reported at that time 21 staff. As of yesterday, 24 staff have been let go, with 11 of them being from the Yuba River District. This includes positions critical to the operations and management of camping and recreational facilities, as well as administrative staff. And while technically no full-time fire personnel were let go, this is somewhat misleading, as probationary and temporary personnel were let go, and administrative staff were also what we refer to as red card staff, who play a role during emergency incidents, were let go and were impacted. So with particular focus on U.S. Forest Service and public lands in the Tahoe National, we see that U.S. fire mitigation work is halted, recreational operations are in jeopardy for the upcoming recreational season, and administrative personnel cut. This also impacts Tahoe Forest National's ability to support various projects that could be associated with the county's own Good Neighbor Agreement and with key personnel and positions now vacant that are critical to support those efforts. In addition, we have seen approximately 2,400 employees let go from the Veterans Affairs, with an overall 30% reduction of its federal workforce. I do have a slide on Veterans Affairs impact specifically, so I'll touch base on that in a second. These are just some of the examples and the impacts that we're beginning to understand, and these are just high-level reviews of such. Additionally, local programs and services are still being understood, and changes are in live time. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and switch over and talk a little bit about some of the congressional branch actions that we are aware of part of this federal update. First, Congress has not yet adopted its fiscal year 25 budget, which deadline was in last October. Since such time, Congress has passed continuing resolutions, which is essentially allows for the continuation of flat funding moving forward, which essentially kicks the can down the road. Currently, Congress has a deadline to pass its budget or another continuing resolution by this Friday, March 14th. If it does not, the government will have a government shutdown. It is widely anticipated that Congress will adopt another CR, keeping the government funded. But it should be noted to your board that if a CR is adopted, generally speaking, it is just a continuing resolution with no additional funding allocations, which means your congressional designated funding projects that have been recommended, quote, earmarks for another term, would more than likely be lost and have to be re-reviewed and resubmitted for next year. Guidelines on next year's congressional designated funding have not come out, but we anticipate them coming out earlier or later this week. And particularly that would be of notice to the Sheriff's Office training facility indoor shooting range project, and to the tune of $2.9 million. In addition, Congress has been directed by the administration to look at a process known as reconciliation. This is separate from the congressional budget process and the appropriations process, and is a special legislative process used to expedite the passage of budget-related bills as they relate to entitlement and mandatory funding for certain programs and services. It's important to note that this process is advantageous as it allows legislation to be passed by a simple majority in the Senate, bypassing the filibuster, which normally requires 60 votes. Specifically, the administration has directed Congress to cut spending in the amount of $888 billion, $230 billion, plus more. To do that, Congress is considering cutting mandatory spending through entitlement programs in Medicaid, also in California referred to or thought of as Medi-Cal, supplemental and nutritional assistance programs, SNAP, those are also referred to as CalFresh benefits, and temporary assistance for needy families. These are all core services that are provided by counties throughout California. Also directed to cut social services block spending, IRA clean energy tax credits as well. So I'm not going to go unless the board would like me to go into specific details of how that could be done, but maybe just in general, Medicaid could be cut by looking at per capita cap. It could also be looked at reducing Affordable Care Act enhanced match for individuals from 90 to 50%, eliminating provider taxes, lowering Medi-Cal assistance percentages between the state and the federal government match, and also instituting work requirements. And then also SNAP, CalFresh benefits are being directed to being looked at cutting at $230 billion and also reducing TA&F benefits by 10%. So when we look at those potential impacts, which are most important to us, we look at potentially, Nevada County has approximately 29,546 individuals receiving benefits. That's approximately about 30%. 1 out of every 4 residents in Nevada County could be impacted through these processes of reconciliation. In 2022, $219 million in Nevada County was provided through Medicaid and Children's Health Insurance Program. 11,768 Nevada County residents receive SNAP benefits, and 47.7 SNAP participants are older adults and children. In Nevada County, 842 individuals receive TNF benefits. And then other programs that are at risk potentially as federal funding losses they're looking at would include WIC, maternal children health programs, and other county and nonprofit organization contracts. Potential looking at veteran services. Veterans represent 30% of the federal workforce, meaning they're disproportionately potentially impacted by the current hiring freezes and firings at the federal level. Mass firings at veterans could exacerbate veteran homelessness and the goal for zero veterans homelessness. As I mentioned earlier, approximately 2,400 employees have already been removed from the workforce at the federal level, which includes about 20% of its workforce. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development is anticipating a significant reduction in workforce that could also lead to field office closures across the country, which could impact HUD housing vouchers, which are typically administered through public housing authorities. Regional Veterans Office staff have retired as well. Staffing for Veterans Crisis Hotline has been eliminated. 12 veterans employees were fired. The 2 have been rehired at this point, and more than half will be forced to relocate. Veterans Medical Service and outpatient clinics are also being impacted. Although clinic staff were meant to be exempt from the cuts, people in positions that provide critical support to veterans, healthcare providers like administrative assistants and program analysis are being reported to be terminated as well. The mass firings and ongoing hire freezes, which prohibits new disability claims raters from coming on board, could worsen the backlog of unprocessed benefits for veterans. Homeless outreach is also being impacted, and then travel reimbursement for veterans appointments are frozen. Significantly additional policy changes are anticipated at the federal level. Moving forward a little bit, just to provide some high level at the NACO Legislative Conference, which I highlighted 5 different kind of short-term priorities. These include some regarding some of what I just mentioned and also other efforts. The first one I wanted to talk about was disaster reform. The Trump administration has put together a FEMA Reform Review Council. NACO is advocating for county rep on the council for its reform, as counties are the first line of delivery of services during emergency, as you well know. But there currently is no county or local rep on this council, which is looking at a myriad of options for FEMA. NACO is advocating for reform, but not elimination. This effort is also being spearheaded by the NACO Intergovernmental Disaster Reform Task Force. I'll talk about it in a little bit. Additionally, Secure Rural Schools Act is a high priority for the association. The initial act was enacted in 2000 to provide financial support to rural counties that have lost revenue from timber sales on federal lands. It aims to stabilize funding for schools, roads, and other essential services in these communities. To give you an example, in 2023, Nevada County received $392,885,000. Counties, in addition, counties and Medicaid is a high priority, which refers to advocating for the protection of some of the core services I already referenced related to the reconciliation efforts. In addition, NACO has also highlighted the importance of protecting tax-exempt municipal bonds. A part of the reconciliation process is being considered to remove the ability for local governments to issue debt through tax-exempt municipal bonds. These are critical tools for counties that facilitate budgeting and financing of long-term investments in infrastructure. Without tax exemption, counties would pay more to raise capital at a cost that would ultimately be borne by taxpayers, which means such reduced spending on roads, bridges the counties are responsible for include decreased development and higher taxes for user fees. And then last but not least, NACO is also prioritizing the importance of county HHA services and personnel. In addition, I do want to just have this slide that appears before you is talking about the NACO Intergovernmental Disaster Reform Task Force. I want to give a shout out to Chair Hall, who sits on that Intergovernmental Task Force. This task force includes 18 county representatives, and Supervisor Hall helps participate based upon some of her work at the California State Association of Counties Wildfire Insurance Work Group, as well as her work in NACO already. The task force focus areas include mitigation, response, recovery, and technical assistance. The task force is advocating to ensure, again, as I mentioned already, that there's a county rep included in the President's FEMA Reform Review Council, advocating for reform, not simply elimination of the agency. The task force is also looking at potential opportunities for changes or improvements to the Stafford Act. Current actions of the task force at the conference included meeting with White House and the Department of Homeland Security, holding a disaster task force congressional staffer workshop to ensure congressional staff are aware of what the counties do in this space. In addition, also disaster task force interviews and then congressional meetings on Capitol Hill. And while we were attending the conference in Washington, D.C., we also worked and with your legislative advocates, held a series of meetings advocating on a variety of issues. Those 3 top issues included advocacy for general issues related to Nevada County, targeted committee and agency advocacy that included the U.S. Forest Service, as well as U.S. Forest Service issues, and then also targeted advocacy and wildfire insurance crisis. Real quick, briefly, I'll just walk through those meetings. One, we met with our Congressman Kevin Kiley, Senator Alex Padilla, Senator Adam Schiff. These were congressional staff. In addition, we met with U.S. Forest Service Forester Randy Moore. I believe it was the last day before his announced retirement. And then we also met with congressional staff from Congressman Doug LaMalfa, who's the chair of Natural Resources Committee. And we also met with Congressman Joe Neguse and worked and advocated for our participation of Congressman Kiley into a congressional wildfire caucus. Last but not least, we worked to meet with the House Financial Services Committee for the majority staff, Senate Banking Committee with the majority and minority staff, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse from Rhode Island, and Senator Ron Wyden from Oregon, all regarding wildfire insurance issues. Specifically, we actually helped lead a multi-county coalition that included Napa and Lake County. And some of the key highlights include key aspects that it's important that federal action is warranted. A need for hearings is warranted. Most folks may not be aware that there is federal law that articulates that insurance regulation is actually regulated at the state level. However, the insurance industry is beginning to see cracks across the nation. It's beginning to be a wide discussion on Capitol Hill. In addition, insurance premiums must reflect the risk mitigation that's being done at the local level. That includes both from your constituents at the home hardening, your Firewise communities, and of course at the more regional landscape level with the fire break projects that the county and state and federal government work on together. And also we articulated crisis really extends beyond the homeowners, really also looking at public housing and how that could potentially be put at jeopardy with insurance being lost for affordable housing projects. Additionally, we did have discussions talking about concerns regarding the mortgage-backed security financial market and creeping risks that we're beginning to see. And then worked to articulate some of the policy recommendations that were led through with Supervisor Hall and the California State Associations of Counties. And really, ultimately, tactical solutions with bipartisan support are needed for this issue. So with that, before I would like to conclude, I'd like to go and turn it over to both Supervisor Hall and Supervisor Bullock for comments. And then, of course, we remain available for any questions for the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Really well done. That's a lot of information, and I want to make sure there's enough time for questions from folks on the board and anybody else who's here. I just would emphasize a couple of things, and I'll turn it over to Supervisor Bullock as well and to share our experience there. I think what was, so the overview, what you saw in the front was what we learned while we were there. They did a really nice deep dive, NACO staff, sharing with us what they're understanding, what they're hearing, what they can affirm is happening. So that information comes from them, and then we have translated that to the impacts to Nevada County by our own staff. And that's really been our focus as we lobby. Our focus has been on the impacts on Nevada County and what we can do to protect the county or make some changes. So I will just highlight on the interagency task force, which is really, it's really incredible that we are able to be represented on that task force. I was the only one who raised the insurance issue, but everyone around the table nodded, also talked about our disasters. But the folks at the table, my colleagues, had multiple major disasters over and over again. So I really let them take the lead on those issues. What was really notable is this unified voice among Republicans and Democrats and emergency managers and supervisors that we do not want FEMA to be eliminated, that we want it reformed. Absolutely. We were very clear about the delayed reimbursements. Some counties waiting 5 years for reimbursements, better access to their staff, one form to be used to filled out so people don't have to go through all that multiple forms. So there were very clear direction that reform is needed, but that we do not want it eliminated. And that was reiterated by every single person on that task force. And then we also asked for, so this President Trump set up a committee to look at what to do with FEMA, and there are no county or city reps on there. So we heard also from every single person, we want at least one seat on that committee, possibly 2 or 3, because as they said, one of the myths out there is, when you visited a county, you visited one county. That every county is different, and we need multiple voices on that board. The folks who listened to us from the White House and Homeland Security were taking notes. It looked like they heard us. So, the question will be, can they implement those changes, or will there be higher level input on those? But it was just a really incredibly important opportunity to have a completely unified, very strong voice about the need for this disaster funding to keep flowing and for the reforms that we've wanted for years and years. And then I will switch over. So the insurance advocacy that I'm doing, so some of those other folks that we met with, Wyden and White House from other parts of the country, we met with them because they are very active on the insurance issue. So we were trying to get our input. We keep learning more and more committees that touch this stuff, and so trying to figure out exactly where to get input. I would say what's different this year is that no longer are they looking at us with deer in the headlights, the staff. They understand there's a crisis. They're beginning to understand what it means. They are beginning to engage. I think they're not interested in doing some kind of a federal backstop, especially with all the funding freezes. Originally last year, they were talking about potentially funding to help people do home hardening, grants programs, and so on. I think we probably can't count on that either anymore because of the funding freezes. But they are aware of the crisis. They're talking about maybe being more organized. And, at least I feel like they've been alerted regularly that this is not going away, that it is impacting our ability to build and maintain low-income housing. And there are more threats coming because the issue is not being resolved. I'll just say as an aside, when we came back, Jeffrey and I went down and met with Senator McGuire's staff, who are really deeply engaged on this issue and have a bill coming up, Senate Bill 661, I think it is.
616.
616. We haven't read it yet, but it looks very good to be a comprehensive governance structure to try to bring the insurance companies in and work together on a solution. None of that, of course, is going to provide immediate relief, but there are solutions that they're being worked on. And then lastly, just our overall, I just think our team, Paragon, did a great job getting us set up and getting around to all the people we could meet. Supervisor Bullock, Jeffrey, our colleagues in Napa and Lake counties did a really good job. We're very assertive about protecting our county and wanting the federal government to respect the needs of our county. So I'm proud of the whole team for what they did, and we will see if we move the needle, but we're doing our absolute best to do that. So I'll turn it over to Hardy if you want to add. I know you had we had some separate meetings going on, so we tag team.
Yeah, thank you. Just a couple of thank yous. Chair Hall has done an amazing job creating inroads in NACO and CSAC both, and when you're in the NACO circle, and you know this from your RCRC work too, Sue, but it's really about being able to stay connected to that group, and yeah, you've done a great job. I've been honored to just kind of recently make the entrance into the Public Lands Committee. And I will mention that NACO is interesting because you're dealing with the entire nation, right? 3,069 counties, so you think you know things, and then all of a sudden you hear from 3,000 other counties. So which is very interesting. I wanted to also thank the Paragon staff. Joe and Hassan and Joe got us into all kinds of meetings, the art of getting a meeting in Washington, D.C., and you guys nailed it. So thanks for getting us into all of those discussions. And then Jeff and Carissa just for queuing it and teeing up all that work. It's a tremendous amount of work, and I felt totally prepared when I was there, having all the support material I needed to have those discussions. And then our colleagues at Lake and Napa County both. It was really compelling because Nevada County has one perspective, and then Lake County has another perspective, and then Napa yet another. And some of them cross paths, and it was interesting. Like one example would be Napa County. We have a lot of public lands in Nevada County. Napa County not so much, but they have vineyards and a lot of economic impact related to the recent administrative changes. So there's different perspectives talking about the same challenges that we're facing. Jeff, thanks for the overview here. You know, for me, it really was an opportunity to visit with our representatives, and it is about representation during this period because this isn't, my seat today is nonpartisan, so it really is just about the local impact of the administration's decisions and our congressional representative and the way they vote in impacting our local programs and services. And so we had forestry, in the way I saw it as forestry, fire, health and human services, and then the economy and how the administrative decisions have affected those. We definitely have a lot of energy going out in the form of letters and requests from different stakeholders and constituents, both individually as supervisors, but also from the board as a whole. And I think right now, the Senator Padilla and I stood together for a moment and we're talking one-on-one, and he, you know, a veteran of that, of Washington, D.C., and obviously a highly respected leader, but kind of mentioned we don't know what's smoke and what's fire. And I think in the national landscape of politics, that is definitely true, but as a supervisor, I don't know the difference. And so I have to rely on our elected representatives to define that for me and advocate on behalf of our constituents, regardless of whether it's smoke or fire. I really don't care because that's not my job. My job is just to protect the interest of Nevada County and District 5 specifically. So that's really what I went to Washington to do, and was really candid with everybody we met with, trying to describe the impacts of these decisions. The other piece I'll say is that in my opinion, good government is very accessible. And I wanted to thank Congressman Kiley for having his staff here to take direct input from our community. I don't think it's done. I don't think it's enough. I think more needs to happen. I'd like to see a town hall here so that we can articulate and our constituents can articulate the challenges we face with the federal decision making recently. We may not all agree on exactly how that works and maybe what the administration is trying to accomplish in those executive orders and those different types of activities that are going on with DOGE. But there's one thing I can count on, and that's the fact that I connect my constituents to our representative in Kevin Kiley's office, and I want him to be present in our community and answer to my constituents, and I'll keep sending letters as one supervisor and other people connected as a regional advocacy for what's right for our community. I'll talk under board member announcements a little bit more about some advocacy I'm doing unrelated to the presentation here. But some of the things that I think are more significantly concerning to me, one of them was the muni bond, the revision of the interest bearing activity on the municipal bonds, because as we know, we're talking about $60 million worth of potential bond revenue coming to our county to meet our financial infrastructure needs. That's the roof for the jail, it's the courthouse, it's our roads, it's our mental behavioral health wing, in pre-existing long-term legacy types of maintenance activities that if we had to pay interest on that, we're looking at a completely different financial landscape for our county. You know, with the Forest Service and Congressman Kiley's office, I think I made it as abundantly clear as I could, just as one supervisor, that when these shortfalls come up, when you take 25 people out of circulation in our local community, it's going to fall on us. It's not only going to fall on the county, but it's going to fall on the supervisors themselves to advocate for different resources. So a good example is the entire string of campgrounds for the Forest Service. It's on 89 between Taos City and Truckee will be closed this summer. I don't know where those people are going to go, but I can guess they're probably going to boondock camp behind my house out in the woods and probably start a few fires and probably ride their dirt bikes where they're not supposed to and probably do stuff that nobody's looking out for. And that is definitely, for the last 4 years, I've advocated for protecting the open space in our community against the impacts of recreational tourism, and it's all going backwards now. All of that work we're doing is kind of getting sunk. So while we talk in the national level trying to correct these things, there's so many great examples of the local impact. I do feel confident that some of the letters we're writing and some of the advocacy that we're taking is being heard in Washington, D.C. There's little parts of hope and bright spots that they're resecting some of the frozen funds and putting them back into circulation. So that I think is really optimistic and something to look forward to. It's not enough and it's not done, and I don't think we can stop until we get it corrected on the local impact pieces. There's a bunch of other stuff happening at the national level that is outside the purview of maybe of this board and of this discussion. We all kind of care about that when we go home and when we think and talk about our local communities and community building. But right now, I just want to keep our foot on the gas pedal if we can, just trying to make sure that the local impacts are mitigated to the extent possible, and that our representation clearly understands how we feel about these decisions. So, total honor to serve there, and I just thank the board for allowing Chair Hall and I to go out there and talk on behalf of our community.
Thank you, Hardy. I'd love to turn it over to my colleagues to see if they have any questions. Sue, do you want to start? Do you have some questions?
No, trying to keep up with this has been challenging at best. So, one, thank you both. It took a lot of time out of your home life and busy schedule and what you do here in our community, so I do appreciate that. Jeffrey called me and kind of gave me an overview, so I know you guys went nonstop while you were there. And I see Joe and Tom on here, and I know they're always working back there for us all the time, keeping you in touch with what is happening and going. I do think that, again, we got to look at is what's happening in our community. I think you roasted all the questions that we've asked. You hit the points that I had when you went back there, like looking at forestry and the economic thing that it's going to be here with our small businesses. And so there's a part of me that says, like you said, keep the gas on the pedal and push for the things we need, and then be optimistic that we're going to see positive outcomes from this. I know everyone, doesn't matter who you are, it's going to affect our small county. And we are special here. This county's made real endways to many things and many programs that are helping our folks. So with that, I really don't have any questions. I just want to say thank you, because your advocacy has been very important. Heidi, you've been doing it for a bit now back there, and it does make a difference. It does make a difference. And Hardy, you're such a grand speaker. I love that you're there advocating. Sometimes we aren't all on the same page, but you know what I love about we are when it comes to our county. I think that's what's really special about how we all work together. So kudos to the work you guys did there, and Jeffrey. And so, yeah, really no questions. I think that we just have to continue the work. The letters have to go out. We need to talk to our constituents. We do need to hear so that we can advocate from here on those. I mean, I look at forestry and vacationing. Federal lands, we have the biggest amount of federal lands that they don't manage their own lands, right? So how can they cut back there? BLM for another one, right? And so we're looking at another year of warm weather and fast running water. So yeah, those are all going to be highlights. And just listening to our programs today with our partnership. When you see those little kidlets, and one of the programs being cut is for families with needs, right? We all know that. I'm looking at being on the housing authority. We were just talking about this. Where are we going? They're demanding us to build housing. But how do you build housing? And now we can't have insurance. And that we're feeling that here. I mean, we lost a project for no insurance. We have a low, how do we fix that? And that's not just a county issue. I think that's a United States issue all over, because I'm hearing this from my friends in different states. So with that, I will be quiet and just say thank you again.
Thank you, Sue, for your support on this, and also just to acknowledge that RCRC that you sit on is doing the same things, and we look forward to when you are coming back to hearing more. I like that we're sharing this information this way, so thank you for your work on RCRC as well. Lisa?
Thank you. A lot of information. I share obviously my colleagues' concerns on what's going on. It does affect all of us. And I think at a personal level, it's going to affect all of us. I know I just had an experience with my dad, who is going to be 90 years old next month, who lost his VA doctor because he retired. And instead of assigning him a new doctor, he got assigned to telemed. He's 90 years old. It's not really practical for that purpose. And I did speak with somebody at the VA in Auburn, and they said that what's happened is 2 doctors have retired, and that's the reason for the shortage, but they will not be replaced. So while no one was fired, they will not be replacing doctors who, so I think that when you start feeling these impacts on a personal level, it really does change how your perspective and how you look at things. So that's just, and I've been asking people to share their personal experiences with me, because I think that's really important for us to know how some of these things are going to affect our individuals. And I think one of the things I see out in the community is people feel powerless. They feel like their voice is not heard. They feel like even if their voice is heard, it doesn't matter. And so then they look to us, because we are probably the closest elected official that they can actually speak with. And they're looking at us to help solve their problems. And so, and I, by nature, am a problem solver, so this is extremely upsetting and frustrating, because I'm not sure how we can solve people's problems with some of these issues. But I really appreciate the advocacy and the work that goes into this. I haven't been a big part of our various groups, but I really, respect my colleagues who are taking part in that, because it is at a different level than some of the work that we're doing just at the local level at the county, and I know how time consuming it can be. I was here yesterday in the morning, kind of working the rope line, I guess, of all the people that were here, and I will say the crowd was very respectful, but they really had a lot of concerns that they wanted to share with Congressman Carley. As Hardy said, I'm hopeful that he will do a town hall. He does represent 10 counties, and he's got even though he has the same number of people in his congressional district, he has a huge distance to travel. And so, maybe we are able to partner up with Placer County and do a joint one. So as a suggestion, I know you guys are speaking with his people, that might be something that would work, because I think there's a lot of people from Nevada County who might travel down to Auburn if we were able to do a joint town hall with Placer County. I think I'll leave it at that. We have a lot of work to do, and I think continual updates for the community are going to be really important. It seems like things are changing on a daily basis if you watch the news, and it's going to be hard to keep up, but I think we owe it to the community to make sure we're educating them and letting them know exactly what's going on and what the county is doing to deal with all of these issues. So thank you.
Thank you, Lisa, and thanks for your help yesterday. That was great. Rob, I know you have trouble with your voice right now, but if there's anything you want to say briefly.
No, I just want to thank you guys for all your work on that, and staff as well. Thanks.
All right. Allison or Kit, any questions or comments?
No, just really appreciate the coordination with the county team, everything from listening to constituents, seeing how the impacts it is locally, to your advocacy in DC. Just really proud of the work that's being done, because I think we are all hearing how this is personally touching people who live here, from losing their jobs to reductions in health care to just a lot of unknowns. And so I just can't emphasize enough how much your leadership is really needed and appreciated. So thank you.
I don't have any comments, but I do really appreciate when a rural community like this gets a voice. And so thank you for that work. It's important.
Thanks. Joe and Tom, you got on and sat through all this, and there have been no questions for you. But would you like to add anything?
Well, hello, Chair Hall and board members. Thank you for that. I think the only thing I would add is just on behalf of the Paragon team, to you, Chair Hall, Supervisor Bullock, and Jeff, outstanding teamwork. It was great to see you out in DC. I know that the Nevada County community is proud of the work you did on their behalf, as part of this advocacy trip. So again, just really, really fine work, and we appreciate all the teamwork. Maybe just the one real quick late break. I know this has been a long segment. late breaking news out of Washington, and Jeff gave a really good comprehensive overview. We're all mindful and watching the potential for a government shutdown on, Friday at midnight. The House, by the way, today, it looks like House Republicans will be bringing a continuing resolution to the floor, or CR, that would fund the government through September. There would be some increases for defense spending, some cuts for non-defense spending as a part of that package. The wild card, or the real question is, so if they pass that and then leave town, it goes over to the Senate. What happens in the Senate? Republicans would need 7 or actually 8 at this point, Democrats to come over and vote for that to, again, avoid the shutdown and keep the government open. So I don't know what the odds are at this point in time, but I would just emphasize things are very uncertain. We're monitoring it very closely, but again, we're coming up on that deadline, and things are just very, very fluid out here. So, and I would invite Tom, if he has any comments, just to add in as well.
Nothing more to add, Joe. We really appreciate the partnership with the county.
All right, thank you very much. Aaron, did you have anything you wanted to add in the work you're doing to quantify our impacts to the county?
I will just add that we are knee-deep in preparing our budget proposals for fiscal 25-26 that start in July, and the uncertainty at the federal level is causing us some concern, as well as the impacts that we're seeing locally with our funding sources that perhaps aren't directly related to what's going on at the federal level, but are related to just our local economy. It's going to be a tough budget year, and so we're all kind of banding together at this point to be really creative about how we move the needle forward and continue to provide for our residents in a sound fiscal manner, and that is a challenge that we're up for. But it's going to be a really tough couple months here. So thank you.
All right, thank you. I think it's so important that we provide this information to the public so they know what we're doing and what's going on. So thank you, everybody. I'm going to open it up for public comment.
Hi, I'm Marion. I'm in District 3, Marion Blair. I've been here before. I wasn't able to attend yesterday, so I'm not sure if this has been covered, but I do want to thank you. That was fascinating, and I was so pessimistic through the whole thing until I saw how involved you are. Thank you for caring about us and for moving all these needles forward. There's a lot going on. So what I'm here to talk about is the whole immigration issue, and I think people may have discussed it yesterday, but ICE raids are instilling fear and disrupting communities, and I'm starting to see this. I work in the schools. I'm a substitute teacher. I'm retired. But I've seen the attendance of the Hispanic students just drop. They're scared to go to school. Their parents are scared to take them to school. ICE is showing up at schools, hospitals, and courthouses. They were recently posted at El Favorito, one of my favorite taquerias. And just watching what's going on, they're instilling fear, and this is not okay in our community. This whole thing is really racist and xenophobic. And of course, it's coming down from above. The criminalization of immigrants seeking safety and protection is just askew. The Trump administration is not just deporting undocumented people, it's criminalizing all immigrants, even legal residents. There are economic and social consequences of increased economic immigration enforcement. Nevada County's economy depends on immigration labor in industries like agriculture, hospitality, and caregiving. Mass deportations hurt local businesses by removing workers, disrupting families, and causing financial instability. Fear of deportation is pushing people into the shadows, leading to lower school attendance, economic hardship, and breakdown in trust between immigrant communities. And they are part of our community. We are all one community. Local communities across the country are resisting these inhumane policies. Nevada County must do the same. What can the Board of Supervisors do? We can declare Nevada County a safe and welcoming community that will not cooperate with ICE. We can ensure local law enforcement does not assist in federal immigration enforcement beyond what's legally required. We can invest in legal aid, rapid response networks, and know your rights education for immigrant families. We can publicly condemn ICE's harmful enforcement tactics and call for an end to mass deportations. Also, Nevada County can ensure schools, hospitals, and public institutions remain safe.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Madam Clerk?
Chair, we do have one caller.
Okay, let's take it.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Matthew Coulter, Nevada County. I would like the Board of Supervisors to let us know, the citizens of Nevada County, is this a sanctuary county? Because it doesn't seem that blatant illegal activity is being attended to. And like, I'll bring up the tamale vendors again on the corner of Greenhorn and Brunswick. You have child labor, you have trafficking, you have God knows what, and then I find a bunch of meth after they gather up quickly and leave that I turn over to the sheriff. So there's a disconnect with what's going on in the county and what can be done at the national level versus the local level. We can do so much more at the local level. We've always been a leading county on all levels. And now we look to Roseville to save us. And we look to other municipalities and what are they doing? But what they're doing has no bearing on what we're doing here. Our roads are different, our climate is different, our terrain is different, yet we've applied these same principles to what's going on in the valley, including the drug use, the mass party importation that's going on, and the homeless and the drug problem. And D.C. is not going to help us, guys. We got to do this here locally. And we have the tools to do it, but for some reason, people are afraid to make a move. They're afraid to go into the Rise Gold homeless camps. And all these things that are going on here that are going to burn us out. We're going to get burned to the ground. So when that happens, you guys all go to D.C. and have lunch with Nancy Pelosi, and she'll work it out for you, I'm sure, because they've done such a good job in the past 50 years that they'll continue. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other comments on any other callers?
No additional callers, Chair.
Okay, no one else in the chambers? Okay. Okay, I'll close public comment, bring it back to the board. Any final comments or questions?
I got one quick thing to bring up if I could.
Yep, okay.
So staff sent the summary of the resolution that's being circulated at the Truckee Town Council tonight. There's a staff report, and then there's two resolutions. One of them is related more closely just to fire, and then one is related to the general impact, local impact of economic outcomes related to the changes at the federal funding level. And I think what I would ask, if my colleagues will support it, is directing staff to do a little bit of policy work and understanding on what a resolution may look like for us from this board to Congressman Kiley, our federal representative, outlining in a nonpartisan way the feelings, the voices, and the needs of our local community related specifically to fire, health and human services, and the recreation-based economy here locally. It wouldn't be something to poke at somebody. It would just simply be a letter that we could outline, making clear that on the record our voices related to these important topics have been heard. So I'd just like to talk about that if we could.
So it sounds like you're asking for not a letter, but actually a resolution, like some of the other areas or some of the other counties and cities are doing.
Yeah, Truckee's got a good example. Truckee has a good example here, and there's nothing that I wouldn't stand behind and be happy to talk to Congressman Kiley about, which I have actually met with him personally and outlined these exact details that Truckee's kind of outlined for us. So what I'm asking for is a resolution.
So yeses or noes, nods from the board. Or questions for Hardy?
Well, I mean, we just talked about, I think that's what we're looking at, is what's going to benefit we're looking at, it's going to protect and take care of our people. So if a resolution is a stronger way to bring that voice, Kevin has been really great at having open conversations. I do think he's listening. But yes, I would be okay with that. I guess we just have to see how what the language would play out. And I haven't read the one from Truckee. I'd like to look at that a little more thoroughly. And I'm sure that we could all come to an agreement on that.
So is this something that would come back at our next board meeting for us to look at? So, yeah. A future, yeah. I don't have a problem doing a resolution. I think, and I did read through the Truckee resolutions. I just would want to make sure that it referenced, it was more specific to the whole county, because I think there's certain things that, obviously the tourism and the national forest issue is huge up there. And just the example you showed of closing that camp is huge. But I think there's some additional things that are of concern countywide. So I would just hope that we could, look at maybe a few more things. And, I think what's happening here, in my opinion, the effects are nonpartisan. It doesn't matter. If you're a veteran, it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat. If you need fire insurance, it doesn't matter. So coming at this in a really bipartisan, nonpartisan sort of way would be really important to me, because these things affect everybody. It's just like, fire knows no boundaries. It's going to burn your house down no matter who you are or what you do. So that would be important to me.
Thanks. I think that's a key important, and that's another thing that all of us can work with staff individually that have our input. Like veterans would be another thing I would like to highlight, in our homelessness, right? So I think there's some other things that we could plug into there that really kind of fit our whole community base. So I'm good with that.
Yeah, I'd be really happy to see a comprehensive resolution that covers all of these things, and try and keep it non-diluted as much as possible, so it's very concise on the things that are most acute right now that we need to solve. But I'm totally open to the language.
Rob?
Yeah, I think you guys have articulated it. I think I would just encourage us to focus on those common areas that you've mentioned in your summary, fire being the biggest in my mind, and just resist the temptation to maybe veer into those areas that are obviously more divisive and reasonable people can disagree. But yeah, focusing on those common impacts, I'd be very open to.
Great, that sounds good. So I think what maybe you should do is work with maybe Hardy and Sue to get some language that looks agreeable, and then, of course, pass it around. And
Absolutely, that makes sense. And
So, Chair Hall, I just want to reiterate what I'm hearing for staff direction. The request from the town of Truckee was to do a joint resolution with the cities and the county. What I'm hearing is their support for a resolution, but for it to be specific to the issues that were discussed today and that are county-centric.
Yes.
We'll bring something back to the board on the 25th, and then we could coordinate them in terms of the delivery of that to the congressman. I also would recommend that the board consider also having the resolution that also could go to the senators as well. So
yes, yes,
great.
Clearly, yep, that sounds right. Yeah. Okay, wonderful. So directed.
right, thank you.
Okay, so I think, let's see, do we need to accept the report? Yes, a motion and a second, please, to accept the presentation, and we'll just do a voice vote on that.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Wonderful. Thank you, Jeffrey, very much. And Paragon, if they're still there, thanks so much for all the work. And Aaron as well. I know you're doing a ton of work behind the scenes. Okay, we are going to announcements before we go to closed session. I think there's enough time. I am not going to do announcements. My announcements were part of this whole deal. So who would like to jump in? Okay, Hardy, go ahead.
Thanks. A lot of it we've already talked about, but I'm just going to whiz through a couple here. Just an appreciation for staff at the CDA doing the CIP review, but also incorporating Sugar Bowl. They've got their own capital improvement project going on that's going to integrate with the town of Truckee, so we're working through that. Met with the UBET Firewise community. listened to a little bit of the changes going on out there. One piece that the board will talk about in the coming months will be the library polling results. So the polling outlining the support for a regional library in Truckee. The polling results came out and they're not great. We're going to have to reconcile a lot of really complex moving parts, and I think it's going to be a lively discussion between the jurisdictions and also the county on how we're going to respond to that. So that's been a long project. Just again, thanking our town partners and the Friends of the Truckee-Tahoe Library have done so much work on this, but unfortunately, right now the polling is not looking great, so there's some tough discussions will have to occur there. At the CCC meeting on Wednesday, we had a great report out from Jeff, who gave a Ledge and Reg report, and then we had the Truckee-Tahoe Homeless Advisory Committee, kind of a response to the Hope Ridge project, and then also what's kind of next for the Truckee-Tahoe Homeless Advisory Committee. So we're going to reconvene in 2.0 and try to keep talking about local solutions. That THAC report, which I've mentioned in my announcements for quite some time, will come to the board for review. Sorry, if the chair feels that that's important, but we're hoping to get that on the agenda sometime after the town and others get a discussion item on it, so you can understand what the Truckee-Tahoe Homeless Advisory Committee is doing. And then I attended the Mental Behavioral Health Board, which I'm a new appointee to that board, so I have a lot to learn. Again, kind of heard about Medicaid, Medi-Cal, and Phoebe Bell, who's not here, was pretty clear in some of the federal pieces that were certainly going to affect the realignment dollars and some of our funding going into mental behavioral health programs. So she gave an outline to our board on that. And then Supervisor Hook and I had our sustainability ad hoc, which I'll let Sue describe what that is, but we had some direction given to staff on that. And then we had a regional advocacy group meeting yesterday, which was with Placer County, myself, and then a number of Eastern County stakeholders just related to the federal impacts in the recreational economy and what the outcome may be. So separate from this conversation, just working on advocacy with other elected and appointed officials, trying to understand what kind of weight we can bring to that conversation for our local tourist-based economy. Let's see, AQMD meeting. I did want to mention, because there was a public comment, the immigration piece. I think it's like 40% of my Eastern County communities, English is a second language, so we have a large population of immigrants. And there had been a Know Your Rights campaign, and also kind of a no local cooperation from law enforcement campaign, and then in addition to that, a belonging piece that's been circulated among that community. And there is efforts afoot to make sure that those members of our community feel safe, that they feel like they belong, and that they feel like there is some local presence of representation and acknowledgement of the struggles that they have inside the Eastern County community. So I feel confident, and I just wanted to say thank you to the people and the groups in Eastern County who have organized all those people and gotten them into the room to let them understand that just because you don't speak the language and you're not necessarily from here, and maybe you work hard and, maybe, there's all these different spectrums of humanity that come to play in one community, that we stand up for those people, and we're going to do our best to help them. So I was proud of that, and I think that's it for me.
Thank you. Lisa?
Let's see. So I attended a monthly meeting that I hold with the City of Grass Valley, with the mayor and the city manager, just to get updated on what's going on at the City of Grass Valley. I attended my first NORTEC meeting last week, and it was very interesting. It's a very large group of people. I was a little disappointed in their parliamentary procedures of something that happened. So I need to get together with the executive director there and get a better understanding of how they operate. One of the interesting things that impacts from potential federal cuts is NORTEC has a $16 million budget. $14 million of that is is federal funds. So if they start looking at the Workforce Alliance and the jobs money that comes out of Washington, D.C., this organization will go away, and we will not have Workforce Alliance here. So that is very troubling to me because I know how much work they do to try and help find people jobs and career advancement and resumes and all of the things they do for the community. And we've had workforce development here for many, many years, and I would hate to see it go away. In my work as a board member of the Center for the Arts, I'm sure a lot of you know that the executive director there has left the organization, and things are still good. Everybody's stable. We're going to be working on bringing a new executive director in, as well as looking at the sustainability for arts organizations. So we're going to be working really closely with the other arts organizations and venues in the community to determine sustainability for all of us moving forward. With what happened at the Foundry this last month, and now the center losing their executive director, In Concert Sierra is in the process of building a new building. I've talked with the fairgrounds and with the North Star people, and there's a real need for all of us to come together and see how we can better collaborate so that every organization is successful in the work that they do. I met with the executive director of Sierra Harvest last week. They have some federal funding for their food programs. Specifically, one of the programs that we're involved with them is they manage the EBT for the farmers markets. And I've seen the success of that program because years ago, the Grass Valley Downtown Association managed it when I was involved, and it's really grown. I think it's about $70,000 now, and it helps people who are on food subsidies. It helps them purchase fresh fruit and vegetables, which is really important, especially for the kids. So that's something that I think we're going to get a little lobbying from Sierra Harvest and some of the other groups in the community to see if we can continue to fund that program. And the farmers, yeah. So I also, at the invite of Allison last week, I attended the county leadership meeting and gave a little talk about our goals. You have about 100 people there. Yeah, it was very impressive to see all of our management staff and senior leaders in one room. And I enjoyed talking, and I answered some questions afterwards, and it was fun. I went out last week with one of our sheriff's deputies to tour a homeless camp. We were trying to figure out if it was in the unincorporated or if it was in the city of Grass Valley. It has been determined that it is in the city of Grass Valley. I happen to know the owners of the property, so I'm going to reach out with them in conjunction with the chief of police to see if we can get a cleanup out there. It's not huge, but it is a big fire danger, and it's right off of Highway 49, so it's kind of the entry to our community, and we really want to get it cleaned up before it grows. I also attended the ERC board meeting last week. There was a presentation on broadband. It was interesting to hear the stories of our providers and how much work they're doing to try and bring broadband into some various neighborhoods, and it's really changing people's lives to be connected. And then yesterday I met with the executive director of the Nevada County Contractors Association, just kind of like to keep up with what they're doing. They have some really serious concerns with what's happening with the school funding because the CTE programs potentially are in jeopardy if schools continue to lose funding. And the Contractors Association runs a huge program for kids wanting to get into the trades. It's really important. I think Tom told me that they had over 350 people who showed up at their job fair last year, and they're doing it again this year. So I think it's really important that we make sure, and I know we're working on some of this as well with Jeff Dallas, but I think it's important that we really back the schools on being able to keep those CTE programs because they're so beneficial to our kids in our community who maybe aren't destined to go to a four-year college or they really want to learn a trade. And I have a lot of friends who are in the trades and own construction businesses and plumbing and electric. They can't find people to work for them. So we need to back that up and make sure that they're finding the workforce that they need. And that's it.
It's lots of good work. Sue?
I have a short one. So one, I really enjoyed I had my annual meeting with Public Works on my CPI briefing, which was great, so I can give people information in my district, what's happening. Had a great meeting. I love the collaboration going on with North San Juan Library and our library. Nick has just been amazing to help work through some of the issues we've been going on, because we have such a great little library up there, and so want to thank them for the work that's going in there, because we're going to meet on a regular basis now, so everything stays on track, and really excited about how that's going to play out. Had a RCRC ledge call, and that is we have a monthly call that kind of goes over all the new bills and everything that's happening and things that are key that we need to write letters on or have information to. It's a little new on some things, but one of the things we've been looking about, of course, is the ATT cooler. There's a bill coming out on that, which I'm working on that ad hoc right now. So stay tuned for that. That'll be interesting. ARSA also had a RCRC water and ag update, which was really informative, but I can't even give you the notes yet because it came to me in Read AI, and I can't get into it yet. I haven't figured out how to use it. I think it's protected. So I have to talk to administration to get it. I got to learn it, yeah. It was great. It was all going through there, and they were taking all the notes, and I was like, and then I went to get the notes today, and I was like, oh, okay, so I got to work on that. And then, but those are a couple of things we've been working on. Of course, water issues are going to be big in California still, and then agriculture with the Williamson Act and how that all ties into climate and clean energy. So we're just really kind of staying on that. We want to make sure that that bill stays within the realm of what we're looking at through rural counties for sure, for protecting agricultural lands. We don't want to get out of control. I presented at the Pin Valley Rotary meeting on the updates on what's at the county and going on in my district. It was great. It had lots of good questions, especially about waste management. That was probably highlight on the list. So we did talk about those things and our board priorities. So it was well entertained. Lots of good questions. And then Regional Housing Authority, and Rob came down for his meeting. It was fairly low-keyed. I think it was great. I think they had this program there that's really just incredible. And so they do an award every year. And what happens is you sign up to be in their program, and because you go in there for rent stabilization. And then as you change, you work, and then there's a stabilization. And if you start paying more of your rent, it goes into a pocket. And this gal, she's getting ready to buy a home, and her pocket over her period of time was $39,000. So she'll use that for a down payment, and she's stabilized her 3 children, has a full-time job, insurance. It just is the most heartwarming part of what Regional Housing Authority oversees and manages. I love when we have those celebrations. It was incredibly, like she talked about it a little bit. I wish we'd let her speak more because she was fairly choked up, but what an opportunity. And it just shows you that sometimes when you have that lift, what you can accomplish. So I love that. We did talk about the challenges we're going to see with funding coming down for housing. There's some, you try to find the positive sides. There's going to be some deregulation in some of it that's probably going to be helpful. So we're just kind of weighing that. We're going to have a ribbon cutting for one of our projects, not here, but down in Colusa. It's called Rancho Colusa, and really excited about that. I think that's on April 15th. So there's still works in progress and still work to be done. I had my little briefing for update for the climate ad hoc. Was really interesting. Hardy even poked in. I don't know how he found time to do that from Washington, but he did it. He kind of looked like this. No, I met him running. He was running in between, but it was great. I would say Beth and Mandy are incredible staff to be leading this, and I learned a lot. We had a lot of good conversation. Really look about where our sustainability conference is going to come, and how that's going to prepare and how we're setting up. That's a lot of work that you guys put on the last few years, and that we all want to attend this year. And so looking forward to that, looking to see who the really guest speakers are going to really be. So really interesting. And then, of course, the other big conversation is looking at about what this Western Nevada County Climate Collaborative is going to be, and how, if we look at how we're going to make that up. So still a lot to learn in this group, but really looking forward to working with all of them. And I've had a lot of meetings with constituents, and it's been good. And not just about not about what's going on necessarily nationally, but even just what's going on locally, things that they have little issues about. And I got to say, I do love this. I have an issue, I can find it with staff how to fix it most of the time. And I got to say, I appreciate that, because I can't fix everything. But it sure is nice to know that I can pick up the phone and get some answers. I had an issue, I needed the sheriff's department. They did such a beautiful job. I wish I knew for sure which officer came out, but he was incredible. And just little things like that, you know, with waste management, with sewer, with roads and public works. It's just, and everyone is so responsive, and I just want to thank everybody for that. And that's about all I have for this time.
Excellent, thanks, Sue. Okay, let me go to Rob first. Rob?
I had a long list this time. I was ready, but my voice isn't cooperating. So I'll keep it short. And a lot of the same ones that have already been mentioned. I think Hardy may talk at a later time about the recreation ad hoc, my first meeting with that, and then, of course, Sue and the Rural Housing Authority. One thing I wanted to kind of highlight, and Sue did a great job talking about that program, which was neat to see with the Rural Housing Authority. But it's kind of a counterpoint to a lot of the discussions about the government efficiency and whatnot. They had an interesting discussion there of a neighboring county perhaps joining the Rural Housing Authority. And part of that is because of HUD sort of demanding more efficiencies. But what I found was interesting, and this is one of those maybe silver linings to all the personal stories we've heard that and the negative impacts, that there's currently a program in this neighboring county. They administer like 220 federal vouchers, and it's currently being done with 4 full-time employees. And the executive director talked about, if this were to be approved, this consolidation, the existing Rural Housing Authority that we're a part of would be able to do that same, administer those same vouchers with, he said, 1 full-time, perhaps even a half full-time employee, eliminating 3. Well, I shouldn't say eliminating 3, because they talked about those would be relocated to other jobs in the county, so there wouldn't be any jobs lost. But that would free up, I mean, by my calculations, $300,000 plus in federal money coming down that could then be used directly for supportive housing or all the various things they do. So that just struck me, I think, as they discussed maybe the benefits of some of this in the consolidation and working cooperatively with other counties, whereas right now they're doing it separately with 4 employees. And so I know every situation is different, but that was one thing that stood out. Yeah, I'll save the other stuff for next time.
Hardy, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I had page 2 that I forgot, I'm sorry. But I wanted to talk about just an update. Shavati's been kind enough to outline the ad hoc pieces for the recreational ad hoc. And so I just wanted to highlight a little bit of her work. And Supervisor Tucker and he and I serve on that. So what we've been working on, the Eco Riders, to launch the pilot e-bike fleet program for county staff members to ride e-bikes. Pretty cool. The peak season coordinated safe recreation messaging, so with the South Yuba cohort, and then also the South Yuba, Supervisor Hook, I think, sponsored this, but everybody's supportive of this South Yuba River seasonal shuttle. And I think we're doing some behind-the-scenes grant support for that through AQMD. And then the rec fair, the recreation fair coming up on May 3rd at Bodie Hive. And then the other piece, which you may have seen an email on, is the Parks and Rec consortium. So Shavati's getting all the Park and Rec districts together to kind of talk about how we work together and how we can work better together, which I'm excited about. And then the Station 82 improvements at 5 Mile House for the mountain bikers. There are hikers and equestrian too, but a lot of mountain biking activity there that I think Supervisor Hall has championed. And then Pines to Mines has been essentially, I think, suspended, and maybe portions of it are getting pushed back through on the federal advocacy side. It's a little bit in limbo, but obviously the MOU is getting signed and adopted to get the final funding partners on board. And then a lot of advocacy coming out of the Recreation Subcommittee to Jeff for inclusion in letters, et cetera, Explorer Act and other state things. So once again, thanks for the support of that ad hoc.
That's awesome. Some good news there. Allison, would you like to do announcements?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Hall. So we did have our leadership meeting. Thank you for supervisors for attending. It really provided an opportunity to reflect on the work of the board workshop. We do meet quarterly. So this was our first meeting after the workshop to look at how we could build that organizational alignment for the board policy objectives moving forward. I also met with Sierra Nevada Memorial Hospital and the foundation, our public health staff and supervisors were out to continue exploring a wellness initiative. So the board will be hearing more about that at an upcoming meeting. Staff is working hard not only on budgets, but also the charters that were discussed at the workshop. So those are going to be coming to you on March 25th. Staff should be working with you on your individual ad hocs to be reviewing those charters. So when they come to the board, we'll be really interested in getting the feedback in terms of how we coordinate that with the budget process. Had a monthly check-in meeting with Chief Estes, our CAL FIRE chief, looking at fire season and how our staff are coordinating in preparation for that. The meeting with Supervisor Bullock in the town of Truckee was really important. It looks at the previous board item regarding transitional housing as well as homelessness. How are we going to be working together through this adopted plan? The town is looking at bringing this plan to their council in April. And then once the town adopts that plan, we'll be bringing it to the county. And we're looking at that date probably being in sometime in early May. And then yesterday, I just really want to take a moment to compliment Congressman Kiley's office and his representative, James Shook. He came with another colleague, but they did see over 100 constituents in a short period of time, and I believe was very professional, and I've already seen some follow-ups from the office, so I do want to recognize their efforts. I also want to recognize our community for coming to government, accessing that contact with the representative, and being extremely civil and professional and really raising important issues. So I think we should just be really proud of our community and how they showed up yesterday. So thank you.
Thank you. Jeffrey, do you have any reports out?
Just a couple, not really too many. One, I think Supervisor Bullock mentioned, presented to the CCC, which was terrific. Also, and you mentioned as well, meeting with the Pro Temp's office. I think that was really beneficial in learning about some of the work that Senator McGuire is working on. Also had a good meeting with your state legislative advocates and learning more about some of the issues that are forthcoming in the state process, including discussions that are happening at the state, thinking about should changes happen in terms of cost sharing with the state? What is the state going to be thinking about in those pieces, which are early on, but I think it's important for us to track those conversations. And then just one last kind of highlight. I think this is kind of a fun component, which is related to the NACO conference, which was participated and partnered up with Sonoma County's Sonoma County Chief of Staff and held a networking breakfast over at the NACO, which was an opportunity to get to meet colleagues across the country to better network and lean on best practices. Otherwise than that, not too much more outside of just internal department issues.
Great, thank you. Okay, thanks for everyone leaning into our announcements. And I think we're going to now go to closed session. So I'll turn it over to Kit to read us in.
Thank you, Chair Hall. This is an item that was placed on for closed session related to real property lease negotiations. It's related to a site on the Sierra College Nevada County campus. And the negotiator for the county is Robert Jacobs with the Sheriff's Office, and the negotiator for the property is David Martin with Sierra College. And all of the other pertinent details are listed in the agenda.
Thank you. And is there any public comment on this item? Any callers?
No callers, Chair.
Seeing none, closed public comment. We'll go into closed session. We'll take a short break first, folks. Okay, thanks.
So we met in closed session and direction was given to staff.